The first thing I became aware of was the darkness, heavy and all-encompassing, pressing down on me from all sides, smothering me. It felt like I was lying in a deep well, miles below the surface, where not even a sliver of light could reach. But there was something else in that darkness, a faint hum at the edge of my awareness. Muffled, unclear at first. My mind struggled to grasp it, like trying to hold water in my hands, but over time, the sounds became distinct. Voices, coming from somewhere above me. Sometimes close, sometimes distant, sometimes urgent. My family, I realized. They were talking to me. It must have been some kind of coma. I couldn't see or move, but I could hear everything. I wanted to shout out, to scream that I was here, trapped, but my body was silent and unresponsive. So I lay there, helpless, listening to the world pass by above me. The voices blurred in and out, time becoming fluid. I could go hours without hearing anything, only for someone to suddenly whisper right next to me. The first voice was my mother's. "I don't know how much longer you can stay like this, Roger," she said softly, her voice thick with exhaustion. "It's been months." Months? The realization hit me like a freight train. I'd been here, wherever here was, for months. How many? How long had I been locked inside my own mind, my own body, unable to tell anyone I was still here? My father's voice joined hers. "He's a fighter, Linda," he said, though his tone was strained. I could almost picture the bags under his eyes, the weariness carved into his face. "He'll pull through. We just need to give him time." They continued talking, voices blending into murmurs, fading as they left the room. I was alone in the silence again, alone with my own racing thoughts and the vast, unchanging darkness. Days passed, or at least I thought they did. There was no way to know. Time felt irrelevant here. Then one day, another voice came. My sister, Jess. "Hey, big brother," she said softly, her voice a mix of sadness and something else, something darker. "I don't know if you can hear me. Mom thinks you can, though. She's so desperate for any sign that you'll wake up." There was a pause, and I imagined her looking at me, the way she used to when we were kids, a glint of mischief in her eyes. But her tone turned sharp, resentful. "I wish I could feel the same," she whispered, so low I barely heard it. "But I know what you did." The words lingered in the darkness, sharp and poisonous, threading through my thoughts. What had she meant? What did she think I'd done? Another silence, and then, in a voice filled with bitterness, she said, "It wasn't supposed to be you, you know. It was supposed to be me, the golden child, the one everyone looked up to. But you," her voice broke off, her breath hitching. "You ruined it. Everything. Dad never looked at me the same again." I wanted to reach out, to touch her arm, to make her look at me and explain, but I was trapped, useless in the void. She stood there for a few more moments, her words echoing in my mind, and then she left, her footsteps receding into the distance. For days, I obsessed over her words. Memories surfaced, arguments, jealous exchanges, moments I dismissed as sibling rivalry. Could she have been serious? Had she truly resented me all this time? It didn't make sense. We'd been so close. Or so I thought. The next visitor was my uncle. He arrived one evening, his voice thick with the stench of alcohol. "You've put your family through hell, you know that," he slurred. "They're hanging on, spending money, time, everything on you for what?" There was a rustle as he sank into the chair beside me, his breath hot and rank. "You always thought you were so special, didn't you? Just because you got that scholarship, because you were brilliant, because everyone said you were going to do something with your life." I wanted to shout at him, to tell him to leave, but I was helpless, bound in silence. He laughed, a low, bitter sound that sent shivers through me. But we both know the truth, don't we? There was a moment of tense quiet, and then he muttered, "If your dad knew about the debt, he'd pull the plug in a second. You've been lying to them, pretending you're their perfect son while hiding a mountain of secrets." Debt? I hadn't been in any debt as far as I could remember. His words felt like jagged pieces of glass, cutting through my thoughts. I tried to piece together his drunken ramblings, but they only left me more confused. What lies did he think I'd been hiding? A week or so later, my mother visited again, her voice soft, trembling. "I don't know if you can hear me, sweetheart," she said, her fingers brushing my hand. "But if you can, if you're there, please come back. I can't lose another child." Another child? My blood went cold as her words sank in. She had never mentioned another child. I'd been an only child, or so I'd thought. Had there been someone else, a sibling lost before I was born? My mind reeled, desperate for answers I couldn't reach, unable to ask the questions clawing at me. More time passed. I slipped in and out of awareness, my mind filled with fragments of conversations, whispered secrets, accusations, and confessions. I was drowning in the lives of those around me, learning truths I had never wanted to know, truths I had been blissfully ignorant of. Each new revelation was like a nail in the coffin, trapping me in this twisted, nightmarish version of reality. And then, one day, I heard my father's voice. Low, urgent. "He's costing us everything, Linda," he said, voice tight with desperation. "All the hospital bills, the treatments, were running out of options." My mother's voice was a soft murmur. "But he's our son." "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice a whisper. "After everything?" The silence that followed was suffocating, heavy with something unsaid. I could feel the tension, a dark, oppressive weight pressing down on me. I wanted to scream, to thrash, to tell them that I was still here, that I was still me, but I was trapped, a prisoner in my own mind. The final blow came on a cold, sterile morning. I heard the sound of machines humming, nurses shuffling around, and then a voice, one I didn't recognize. "It's time to make a decision, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson," the doctor said, his tone sympathetic. "We can't keep him like this indefinitely." My mother's voice broke as she replied, I know." And then, in a trembling whisper, she said, Maybe it's time to let go." A wave of panic surged through me, every fiber of my being screaming in protest. "No," I wanted to shout. "I'm here. I'm still here." But all I could do was lie there, silent and motionless, as they made their decision. The darkness closed in, thick and unyielding, suffocating me, pulling me under. Their voices faded, growing distant, until there was nothing left but silence. And then, just as I felt myself slipping away, I heard a faint whisper, as if someone was speaking directly into my mind. "Welcome back." The darkness shattered, and I opened my eyes.